Alex, thank you for the honor and privilege to be here today. And I'm really excited to spend the next 35-40 minutes with an amazing panel of a diverse group with some incredible expertise. And so I'd love to go one by one. If, Natalie, then Patricia, and then Dominik, introduce yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of what's happening as the family office space evolves. And then from there, maybe a little bit of what you would like to see more of, or even if it doesn't exist yet, in terms of that space. So Natalie, over to you in Dorset. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Would you like us just to do a short intro of ourselves and then go into the topic?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So Natalie Fruchaud, I'm the founder and managing partner of SEREIN, which is a family office built around the needs of a few next gens going through intergenerational transfer succession planning. My background, I came from the trading floor, 30 years, but first half of my career was in fixed income derivatives. So that's important with the mindset I had when setting up SEREIN and supporting a group of next gens was around words that just sort of roll off my tongue are chaos, cost, risk, crisis, overwhelm. And that's sort of the background where I'd started with SEREIN. And now if we fast forward to where I am today, I retrained as a health and wellness coach. So that's all integrated into managing the myriad complexities that come with managing wealth and legacy.
Wow, that's a big change from the money world to the legacy and the next gen world. So tell us, what are you seeing now as the world is obviously disrupted, and maybe even before that, what are you seeing in terms of the family office space evolving?
It's really interesting because when I left the trading floor and I went to move to private wealth, I was mainly the work I was doing is around consolidated reporting and risk management of assets and all the risks that are overlooked. I come from structured products, fixed income derivatives. So structured products within portfolios, families were sold these assets, headline rates look great. I've got a gearing 130% and I've got a capital protection of 100%. I said, well, actually you got 100% of this black box, which is probably worth nothing. So explaining risks. So that's, and when the crisis happened in 2008, that's sort of the proliferation of family office being set up with a financial focus, becoming investment managers. And now fast forward to where we are and how I evolved even myself and health and wellness, because whilst I was starting with risk management, every single issue that I had dealt with, because other families were starting to come with me, can you help me with, they'd be stuck in some way, they'd have a problem. And it was the human element that was always quite profound. So I was doing I'm Australian, grew up in Australia, and I'm living in London 30 years for my career, and my husband's French, so culturally international. And so I had one Australian family that I was looking after, and he said, it's kind of like having admin brains within the family office. So to know what to look for, and that strategic thinking. But all the problems we know the greatest risk, key person risk in any family, clogs to clogs in 3 generations, all those statistics. The greatest risk is we can manage all the financial risks to a degree. We're in most uncertain and volatile markets, but the human capital element is really the part to optimize. And now I have seen the trend within family offices that integrating more of the well-being and nurturing the talent within a family office. But I've even gone further to actually like a Formula One team, really supercharge the drivers and the entire team. So you're optimizing capital, which is more of a growth mindset, to key person risk. That's managing from fear. Optimizing capital is actually really going right into the deep of optimizing well-being. So in summary, the trend that I've seen with family offices from over the last 15 years is first financial focus, to managing all that is important to a family. And that really gets back to, what's important to, us as people and humans. I've made a lot of money, but when you look back at your life, or I made a lot of money and my family is all harmonious and working collectively and constructively, and the family office and our wealth is secure for future generations. So it's more than that. It's money plus what a lot of family offices are focusing on. And with the big trend of next gens taking over, who are more socially and environmentally aware, who have grown up with an era of stress, didn't happen in the 70s. It's a new pandemic. And so there's a lot more focus on the human element and what's really important when making investment decisions that are aligned with, the human need to be aligned with values and purpose. So, the explosion in impact investing, for example, where you have dual benchmarks of a financial return and a social return. And I've seen the trend where family offices are now having a dual benchmark. We're having a financial return, but our social return, we're measurable. How well are we doing in optimizing the people within our family, cultivating happy, healthy, productive people, and not the barbell strategy of when a next gen's got to inherit and they're doing coping strategies and they end up in a clinic for addiction and all these other behaviors. That's crisis management. I'm at the other end of the spectrum of, we don't want to even get to that territory. We want to optimize the people now and help them with empowered choices in every aspect of their life and lifestyle, so that they don't end up in the crisis management strategy of well-being.
Okay, Natalie, thank you very much. I want to come back to you after we do the round to understand how do you go about optimizing, and maybe if you can share some tools and some ideas with those who are listening and as they introspect and reflect on what you just shared on the element of optimizing human capital. So if you don't mind, we'll come back and loop back to you on that, if that's okay. So Patricia,
thank you.
So welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're seeing. I know you're in Hong Kong, so beautiful place. We're experiencing a different experience than the rest of the world in Asia. But so tell us, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And what's keeping you busy in the family office space?
Right. Thank you. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer who specializes in creating single family offices for clients basically from all over the world. And I've been doing this for at least 10 years. And I've been seeing a lot of changes, not only with the kind of work that I do for them, but also myself. I started in this space very early on as a funds formation lawyer. I'm with Squire, Patton, Boggs, and I'm running the global family office practice team with more than 60 partners in the world. So I started, my first family office project was actually an internal hedge fund that I was asked to set up. And back then I didn't even know that it was a family office. Oh. I knew I had a bunch of friends who wanted to hedge funds, but then I realized later that there was no external fundraising. All the money came from a Liechtenstein foundation belonging to one single family. And then it's only after half a year that I was asked by UBS Singapore as a servicing department. They said, well, this family office that you have set up, then that's a moment that I realized that I have accidentally stepped into the area of family office. So I didn't expect it, but here I am. Then I gradually picked up the other bits, creating trust, like restructuring trust and the tax stuff. So basically, my main job here is to help my family clients set up single family offices. Yeah. That's basically is the first half of my career so far, like doing technical stuff like funds, trusts, and taxes. It wasn't until 2016 when something like a live event, like a major live event happened to me, that I picked up my spirituality. I've always been spiritually sensitive. I can see energy, I can see aura, I might be to some extent clairvoyant. But it wasn't until 2016 that I had direct connection with the angels. I've talked about in conferences, I write articles about it, so I've become the family office lawyer who can see and tell people about angels. And it changed not only me as a person fundamentally, it changed to a great extent how I interact with families and what I can do for them. So I've been creating models, I've been doing research, I've been writing about how to combine spirituality, transpersonal psychology with legal aspect for family offices. And so as for the trends that I do see, I'm still doing a lot of the technical stuff, like forming funds, like doing regulatory stuff for family offices, especially when I first started, people wanted like a family office in one location. But then in the last 2-3 years, people started to want family offices set up at multiple locations at the same time. So it's increased the complexity and the sophistication of the kind of legal work that I do for them. And the complexity when it comes to trust products, how trust and funds should be combined and all these tax issues, is getting more and more sophisticated. But then in addition to the external stuff that we do for them, the external data that we use, I do see a trend, a big trend in my experience. I'm probably facing a biased sample because people who would like me would be drawn to me, and I'd probably seem to attract people who are more like me than other people. So clients who come to me are more and more into also looking at the internal aspects. For example, religion, like mental states, like emotional stability, and even spiritual aspects. Some people come to me and they wanted to meditate with me before we have a meeting, or we might stop to do meditation in the middle of a meeting because we faced some difficulties that we wanted to take ourselves away from that circumstance so that we have a clearer mind to go forward. So actions and strategies, and even when I prepare family constitution for them, like I would put in more spiritually connected stuff into the constitution, into how this structure is actually designed and implemented, how I interact with the families and how family members interact, and how family office executives have to learn how to help their clients, meaning family and the family members, look inward. So it's a major exercise of shifting from the external to the internal, or expanding into the internal. So that's a major trend that I've been seeing.
All right, beautiful. Before I go to Dominik, just are you seeing more acceptance or resistance from any specific culture or area of the world, or is it just it's not, it doesn't matter whether it's an Asian family or a European family, or?
I would think it's universal.
Okay.
When I travel the world, we have in our group, we have more than 60 partners and more than 30 offices are involved. So part of my job is to travel globally, except when I cannot do so during the pandemic. So I need to talk to colleagues in different offices and talk to their clients and talk to them. And I usually include in my presentation, like spirituality, kind of testing how they would react to it. But this is truly universal in the sense that so long as you're able to touch people's heart, they react. It's the same.
So it's really from a heart space, not from the traditional
universe and heart space. Yes. I'm just the channel.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominik, tell us. I mean, you're sitting in Europe, and obviously things are a little different than the rest of us in Asia. So what do you see happening, and a little bit of your background, and what would you love to see going forward?
Thanks, Feisal. Yes, so I am from a family. Business is now in the 5th generation. I'm a very active shareholder. And like Natalie, I'm coming from the trading floors, derivatives, hedge funds. I was a co-founder of a family office. But ever since we did our family constitution, I got interested in family dynamics and how human beings in their relationships form more or less efficient decisions. So I'm focusing entirely on family dynamics. And what would I like to see in the family office world happening is that, the esteemed panel already has established, there's this thing, human capital. And where there's capital, where are assets, there are risks. And all families are different, but they all have some form of behavioral risks, which is meaning the human capital can have positive payoffs or negative payoffs. And then you have operational risks, which is the legal and the tax side, and then the financial risks, how you hold the wealth, where do you invest, how do you manage your liabilities. And what I would like to see is that these three elements are more focused and seen as interrelated. It's a portfolio of assets, so there's a portfolio of risks. And there are correlations or interrelations, I'd rather say, and feedback loops. So it's a complex system, meaning the whole thing is defined by the relationships. Fixing one thing, like focusing on the investment side only, and a little bit here and a little bit there, independently, to my mind, doesn't manage family risk. And this is what, in my mind, a family office should be, a family risk manager.
So now your focus is to help create that system to have the overall risk balance, so that not one is overriding the other, or are you more focused on the non-financial side? What is your...
It's more the non-financial side. What I'm saying is, so impact investing, for example, it's a great example. So there's the financial aspect. Then there's a behavioral aspect, a social recognition, and so forth. But also, when you have, mind you, there's a family, and the next generation doesn't know what to do. There's enough money, they don't have purpose. That's a problem for human beings. Now, that impact investing could be a fantastic playground to understand, to live the values of the family, to try out some business acumen, which already gives the next generation some purpose. By that, automatically reducing their behavioral risks, meaning when you have a purpose, you don't go off drugging, drinking, and gambling. Which we all have also experienced, not as human, me as a person, but observed it in other families where people just simply tried to compensate what they didn't have, purpose.
Okay, and how deep, I mean, obviously you're coming again from the financial side. Do you feel that background has really helped you to understand and create the system and system risk and be able to look at it from that perspective, or did you have to really do a lot of work more from the head space to the heart space, like Patricia was inferring?
Oh yes, indeed. Coming from the financial world, yes, I think there is a certain advantage thinking about risks and correlations. But then also the financial world is quite linear in its thinking. And that doesn't help to look at social systems, which are non-linear systems, meaning there's a Homo economicus. It doesn't exist. I think that's established. Homo sapiens, do we know everything? Not really. Is there the Homo duplex? I think yes, it does exist. What does that mean? So every individual is a system in itself that is connected to another system called another individual. And together we already form a macro system. And then you have an entire family. And your decision is generated by yourself, but is not independent of the system around you. So that's the Homo duplex.
Okay, so Dominik, I'm going to come back to you to share a little bit. I know it's to simplify maybe, and ask a few questions to whoever is listening, to have them start reflecting on the risk elements in that system, or to understand where they are in that balance, right? And that would be really, I think, very helpful if that's okay with you. So Natalie, coming back to you, so tell us the optimization of the human capital that you were referring to when you did the introduction. Can you teach us or give us some tools? And as she does this, please, the audience, please in the chat box, ask questions. We'd love to make this interactive. I know we can't see you or hear you, but I will repeat the questions and try to make this as fun as possible. Natalie, back to you.
And I'll try to make it as fun as possible as well. And we could start with what is an optimized human? What is the definition of wellness and well-being? And it's unique and individual to every person. But within the family office, yes, we're optimizing financial capital, but to optimize a human, if I start with an acronym, it's called SUCCESS, a really nice way of 7 parts, portfolio approach to a human. Which assets in your portfolio are you optimizing?
Dominik is very happy to hear this. He's going back, reminiscing of his old days, right, Dominik? Okay, go ahead.
And I like this approach too, because we're coming from a mindset of risk management in derivatives, where you lay everything out and you break it down into small components so that you can manage it, sort of dissolving the overwhelm. And that's what a family office needs to do. It's a huge task to manage wealth, and all the interrelated. So I speak Dominik's language, and I also speak Patricia's language. Okay. And so I will do the same
Chinese.
That I did.
Thought you speak Chinese.
Well. No. In terms of energy and understanding about that, when I was on the trading floor, I admit I wouldn't have been able to understand you, but from trading floor via to health and wellness coach via burnout, then you do actually learn a great deal about how to optimize a human, because when the human's broken, how do you put it back together again? So we don't want to be at that stage of broken humans. We want to be optimized. So the acronym S, success. S for subsistence. So food, water, shelter, safety, preserve wealth, safety, risk management, understanding and growth. Humans have a natural curiosity to better themselves, learning, educating, connection and love. The crisis has brought out so many people of I'm missing out, connecting with others. So that's a huge human need. Contribution, impact investing, great example. When I'm making an investment, I'm making a financial return, but I'm doing it in a sustainable way. It's actually making a difference in the world. Appeals to basic human need of making a contribution, a meaningful contribution in the world. What are we here for? To do something that makes a difference. E, esteem and identity. Think of next gens. Inheriting wealth, a huge thing to take. You're a young 20-something. You haven't even found yourself yet, and of course, naturally going. That's why it's a coping mechanisms. Alcohol, wild lifestyle, all this money, all these riches, all the sweets in the candy shop, with a little kid, and then they realize, my God, I'm actually really ill. But their self-esteem, they're nothing, take all that away, who are they left with? Self-governance or autonomy. We all want to be leaders in our own life and direct our own lives, and having the opportunity to do that, and significance and purpose. Again, impact investing, and I've been involved with that. Camden Wealth Research is the largest one. I'm an ambassador for impact investing, and started it 8 years ago because of this whole sort of trend where there was interest in impact investing, mainly from next gens, interestingly, grown up in a different worlds, different problems in society, and ticks the box of esteem and self-identity. I had so many next gens coming to me with a business card that would say social entrepreneur. They'd found their role, and they were fulfilling the requirements of the family board and council about investing in businesses, but they're also fulfilling their own needs to build a business that was actually making a difference in the world. The next gens think completely differently. They're growing up in such a socially and environmentally uncertain, chaotic world, and seeing problems and seeing creative solutions to it. So to put that acronym into some context about the outcome for a family office that is a well-functioning family office, where you've got optimized financial capital and optimized human capital, the image that comes to mind, which I think is really beautiful, is a Formula One racing team and the whole team. The guy changing the wheel nuts, changing the tires, he's living his life purpose. He's got a really important, he feels empowered, energized. He's got a really important role within the team. The driver, he's well nourished, he's eating really well, he's calm, he's confident, he's a self-lead, all of everyone, self-leadership. He's focused on his job. He's not thinking, am I good enough? He's done lots of work. So I retraining as a coach is helping unlock people's mindset to actually, how do you connect with what's really important in life? So holding that image of an F1 team is, and you translate that over into a successful family office. And I'll be really brave and put a question out to everyone to ponder. If you come to the end of your life and you look back, you think, what have I accomplished? And yes, I made a lot of money, but the family were in chaos. Or I made a lot of money and my family were operating like a Formula One team. Everybody was engaged, healthy, happy, harmony, synchronicity, all working towards a common vision and being aligned with their values. So that, I think, is probably the nicest way to create the outcome. Because if I came here, and because everybody here, we're all focused on risk and investment and optimizing money. If I came here and said, the family's got to be well and focus on harmony and meditation, etc., that I think I might lose a few people, because I still know what it's like being on the trading floor, and I had to go to meditation, because it's another point that about integrated health. Medicine, modern medicine, conventional medicine focuses on disease states and dealing with symptoms. Why it's really important for everyone to focus on their well-being is if you burn yourself out completely and then you get to the end of the road of going to the doctor to say, well, I'm totally exhausted, I can't sleep, I can't, I'm stressed out, complete your car is falling to pieces, they'll say, well, have some pills, or it's a Band-Aid and it's not going to work. So the important message is about prevention and being like that Formula One team, so optimizing yourself, and it's it's not complicated. It's empowered choices in life, and it's two things: sort of nutrients, nutrition, a well-nourished mind and body, managing your mindset. So some techniques. So Patricia's mentioned meditation. Took me a while to get into it when I actually got it, and also when I realized that you don't have to go away to retreats and sit on a cushion for 45 minutes all the time. You can actually do it in the taxi on the way to a meeting. 2 minutes resets the autonomic nervous system, sends a message back to the brain, everything's calm. And then you get a congruent and congruent coherence in your body. And how I learned that was from athletes. How do athletes prepare for a game?
Perfect. Beautiful, Natalie. So success, the acronym, and the Formula One team. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that reflection. So Patricia, coming to you, bringing in the universe, the spirituality element, maybe you want to share an example or however you feel to kind of go maybe a little deeper into how the families experience and shift that constitution or the governance document or the structure from a very different perspective.
Well, when you said bringing in the universe, I thought you were saying bringing in the unicorn.
Okay.
and there it is. Right. So I have. Can you see in this? Oh, now
Yes.
you can. Right.
Yes.
Okay. This is a model that I have adapted and kind of created. It describes the reality of a family member of a really wealthy family. So basically we are dividing things into 4 boxes. So we have the external personal, external collective, internal personal, and internal collective.
Okay.
And this is how it's used. A very good friend of mine came to me, and it's been a family friend for forever. And her family owned 1/5 of the largest IPO ever in Hong Kong. And we have set up a few structures for her, and I'm acting as protectors of those structures. Then after setting up basically everything, she told me, can I speak to you as a friend, not my lawyer? And I said to her, of course we can. And then she said, I couldn't go to sleep. I'm so nervous. And I'm so surprised. And I said to her, why are you nervous? And then she said, my father, who loves me so much, he has given me half of the company. So I'm suddenly becoming extremely rich. I know that the family is rich. I know that I'm rich, but I am personally extremely rich now. And I don't think I can handle it. I don't think I'm smart enough to invest it wisely. So I cannot sleep. I keep thinking how I should put the money to good use. Then I told her I'm studying this transpersonal psychology thing, and she said, well, you're always studying something. And I showed her this chart,
Yeah.
and I told her, basically, you should not be reacting to an external stimulation at a personal level without giving yourself time and move inward to look at what's really happening here. Because it's an action originating from your family, and then it comes to you, and then without looking at the internal part, whatever decision that you make, you will regret. So this is one of the earliest examples that I was able to use this model, and I've actually put together a story based on her appearing in my first paper on this integral approach. Another more recent example is how to use intuitive inquiry, basically to look at internal data. External data means the sort of stuff that most people attending the forum today would be using. Like if you're a number person, you would be looking at stock prices, investment return. If you're a lawyer, you'd be looking at laws and regulations, so on and so forth. If you're a family governance specialist, you're looking at family system, like family composition. But then all these are external stuff that you can see and touch. What's equally important is the internal data that's not spoken, but equally important. So intuitive inquiry is a new tool that I've been using, researching and writing about with my clients. We're using information from dreams, bodily sensation, movement, like intuition, for example. I would go through the family constitution with my client, asking how they react to family values that I asked them to choose. For example, I would ask them, do you see colors? Do you see brightness? Do you sense like warmth, or do you have body sensation when we talk about certain things in the document? So that we're actually tapping into something that they might kind of notice, but not brave enough to admit without a formal platform that they can express themselves. So these are the tools that I've been kind of advocating, researching, and using in the last 2-3 years.
Wow, very, 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 I mean, the first approach, I think a lot of people can resonate with. You know, the second one, I think will take.
It takes a bit of work, but
a
it's,
little bit of,
it takes a bit
more
of
time
work
to digest.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Thank you. Dominik, so let's go back to this system and the system risk and maybe some questions. I don't know, just educate us a little bit on how we can begin that process. You know, people are obviously very intelligent, the family office, either principals or management. So how would you like to do this?
So thank you. That was very interesting. Also, what Patricia just said with the internal, external, collective, individual. I think this already describes a system, and it describes the system of the Homo duplex I was alluding to before. I also like what Natalie said about the purpose, the system awareness in an F1 team, and optimizing that. It is the synchronicity. And what we propose and conceptualized is narrative-embedded governance, which actually links to the experiential governance approach that also Patricia alluded to. It's about that the family finds their narrative. And this also ties in with the spirituality. It creates system awareness, and then what we believe is true, we create our reality. So we need to create a shared reality. How do we do that? Not only by cognitions, but by embodied cognitions, where we also interpret meaning. We create shared meaning of that family. and create this story which becomes the center of gravity, which allows the system to stay together and synchronized throughout contexts. And once that is established, which has a lot more freedom degrees, then what we think should be done is going into the family constitution, which has less freedom degrees. It's a bit like a machine which with cogwheels. That's the family constitution with all these rules and regulations. And then it needs some lubrication. And that lubrication comes from the narrative, from the family system coming together and co-creating their narrative, their reality, share it, and embody that.
Wow, beautiful. I love the way you put all of it together and combined all the different elements. So before we're almost ending time, is there a question or a remark, Dominik, you'd like to share? For whatever reason, there are no questions. I'm a bit perplexed, but it's the first, we're the first one starting, so maybe everybody is still waking up. Unlike us in Asia, it's already 4:40 p.m. So Dominik, any last remark or question or something you'd like to share to have people reflect on as we come to a close?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so we have a family constitution which rots on the shelf. So what is with your family constitution? And how much do you think that family constitution contributes to system resilience and creates that adaptation capacity that's required for that to happen?
Okay. Patricia, we have a question come in, but let's go through that and then we'll answer the question. Patricia, any last remarks or question you'd like to leave everyone with?
Well, responding to Dominik's comment on family constitutions, the kind of constitutions that I create for them, it's perhaps like to an extent in solution to why your family constitution didn't work. Traditionally, family constitutions focus on the structure and the rigid stuff. Yeah. But then my kind of constitution not only look at that as a necessary component, but I also give tools and help people understand themselves and each other. Yeah. And we build in the flexibility to change by helping people improve, helping people understand each other. So that's something that could be explored in future.
Okay, so the relatedness, you're helping people connect and relate to each other
and to themselves.
Yes,
to themselves internally.
Yes, so have a fluid process of the Constitution as a growing document or an evolving.
Well, because the family office should be a tool of transformation.
Okay.
And family constitution, it's part of that tool.
Okay, beautiful. Natalie, before we go to the question, what would you like to share as a last remark or as a question to leave everyone with?
Trying to keep it really simple. And as a coach, we always get to the why under the why. What's important about that? And if I can leave a question rather than any answers, yeah. For people to really ponder, when you're making a decision and thinking about it, what's important for me to make this investment, for example. Yeah. I'll make financial return. Now, we go a bit deeper and connect and bringing in what Patricia and we've talked about heart and mind intelligence. Most of the intelligence is actually in your gut and your heart. Our brain does a lot of the processing, but it's your intuition and gut feelings. And so I would just leave it with one question, get to the why under the why, and how is this aligned with what's important for me and my family? How is it aligned with what Dominik was talking about, sort of the family's narrative, the story? This is our values and our life purpose. What motivates us? Why are we here? What are we doing? And what's our contribution we're going to leave in the world? What's the mark we're going to leave in the world?
Beautiful. Yeah, the Japanese ask the question why 5 times before they come to any kind of resolution. So we have a question. What role does the family office management play in all of this? I see Dominik nodding. So who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'm very happy to provide an answer. What I think, it's up on the family officer to understand what the family system needs and go out and find a portfolio of service providers that delivers that need or caters for that need.
Okay, so you're saying they should do that exercise, but what about from a risk perspective? I mean, would it really be in their best interest to do that?
Well, again, I think a family officer should be a risk manager.
Okay.
So in speaking in derivatives, there's your risk exposure. You need to find a portfolio to hedge that risk, and that is a portfolio of service providers.
Perfect. I love the answer. Patricia, anything? What would be their role? What do you see from your side?
Well, I mean, apparently the family office management would be wearing a lot of hats, but I want to, since I was bringing up the intuitive inquiry exercise for family constitution, I'm actually doing one for one of the families that I'm working with. The patriarch is outside of Hong Kong, so we cannot see him. But the family office happens to have 2 people here in Hong Kong, so I've been working with them on the family constitution and using this like intuitive inquiry method. And interestingly, we found that in order for the family office executive to be able to help the family members do the same exercise, I have to train them to become trainers.
Okay, so
And
train the trainer. Okay.
train the trainers. So one of them is actually trying it out with his own family members, so
Okay.
that when he gets so used to it, when he knows how to do it, he can repeat it with members of that family.
Okay, beautiful. And Natalie, what do you feel the role is of the family office management?
Putting a derivatives risk management hat on, unlike Dominik, it's a portfolio approach and coordination of different parties. And I think the family office manager needs to have dual benchmarks, not just financial returns, but optimized human capital returns. So a portfolio approach to ensuring that each of the family members is fulfilling that success acronym, and going back to the F1 team. So the person changing the wheels is just as important as the person driving the car. Every single family member needs to be fulfilled and contented, empowered and engaged in what they were doing. So a virtual family office, you don't need to go and build a well-being model in-house. Virtual family office, you bring in the service providers that you actually need to help nurture the talent, and that's about promoting wellness, not necessarily hedging. You'll hedge your risk by promoting wellness prevention. All
right, we're actually 6 minutes over time. Thank you very much, Patricia. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Dominik. Thank you, Alex, for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation. And thank you, everyone, for asking the questions and sharing some remarks. Alex, back to you. Thank you, everyone.